Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is Resin, and my name is Rob Roy, and I'm going to be running this channel basically as a kind of learn as we go resin art project. Plan on posting videos once a week for us to talk about things, to basically answer any questions that I get or that seem intelligent. Apologies if I sound a little funny to you. I am a stroke survivor. I had a stroke about 3 years ago, and I lost the use of my left side. So I don't walk real well, and my left arm is pretty much useless. So as we go, you will see various different things, and I'll explain what is different for me as opposed to those of you who do have two hands. You will also see that I don't wear a lot of safety gear because with only one hand, it's next to impossible to put on gloves. Very, very difficult. I do have them. I just don't use them. Some people use respirators. As you can see, I'm in a fairly large room, and my wife and I are planning an upcoming move. And the new house that we're looking at has basement space that I'll be using as a workroom. So things will look a little bit different, hopefully. So welcome to the site. I do hope that you guys will like and subscribe. That way you can stay up to date when we post new videos. Our first video today is going to be answering that most popular question that I think I've seen so far in all the resin groups. And that's, what do you need to get started doing resin? Pardon me, I love my coffee. So I picked up doing resin probably in October of last year. It was my first time. And as it says on my Facebook page, my site, it was a way for me to do something to feel useful. I needed to feel like I had some kind of purpose now that I'm disabled and pretty much stuck at home most of the time. I can't work. I decided to take this up, and then I got really, really hooked on it. And as you'll see, this can become an expensive hobby. It can also become something that you can work as a business. I don't know if you'll ever get successful enough to make $1 million. I don't think you're ever going to do that or even live the high life. But I believe that you can make enough money to keep going. And that's really my aim. Is I aim to sell things, not to make a profit, but just to keep myself busy. So if I can make enough money to just cover my materials, I'm always happy. So today's topic, what we were going to get into, and I'm going to show you guys a lot of different things. And we're going to start with what I think are probably necessities. And then I'll move into the nice to have, and then some of the nuts to have, because I do kind of have some more expensive things for someone who jumped right into the hobby. And also, just to give you a heads up, I am also a veteran. So you may see around the room various things that apply to that. I do have stuff like that. So, all right, let's get started on today's topic. I think mostly today, you'll be looking at my ugly mug instead of seeing the table over here because I want to show you things. But there are some things that I think you should definitely make sure that you have before you take up this hobby. Now, as you can see right here, I have this lovely blue thing. This is called a leveling table. I highly recommend that before you purchase anything, you make sure that you have somewhere that you can pour resin into molds and be completely level. You don't have to buy a leveling table. This one is the biggest one that I could find on the market, and I think it was maybe $40. It does have in the middle of it, I don't know if you can see it. You'll see it when I do some overhead views. There is a level button or window in there that works really just like a level for construction. There's an air bubble, and as long as you get that air bubble in the center, you should be um fairly well level. So I do all of my pouring on this pouring table, and you will see when I flip to the overhead view, there are places where it looks like there's already resin. It's not. It just is like residue. Um, Sometimes, especially when I'm doing dice, I get some overpours with the resin, and what I do is just let it harden and then scrape it off of my leveling table. If you're not using a leveling table, if you're using something more permanent, I strongly recommend that you use a silicone mat. I do have one under here, and you can see a little bit of my orange one here. A silicone mat is good because resin doesn't inherently stick to silicone. It will stick a little bit, but it will also come off nicely. So if you happen to spill some resin, what'll happen is you can just let it harden, and then you can kind of roll your silicone and peel it off. Not a big deal. Whereas if you get it on something, a hard surface, you're gonna have to scrape it. Now, bringing that up, I'm gonna recommend, you probably already have it. If you're gonna take up this hobby, buy yourself a scraper. You're gonna want one, a scraper, a putty knife, something like that, because you can easily chip the resin off of your hard surfaces. Now, another thing that I am going to recommend strongly is that you invest in some of these. These are plastic cups, and I know some people are going to balk about this because, oh Lord, plastic might hurt the environment. Let's face it, epoxy is not the best thing in the world for the environment as it is. So if you're worried about this little bit of plastic, it might not be the hobby for you. But as an alternative, you can use silicone cups. They do make them. I don't care for silicone cups because I don't feel when I pour that I get the control that I want. Now, again, I only have one hand, so I have to pour things. I have to have a good hold on them. And sometimes with the silicone cup, they're squishy. You can't really hold on to them. What I will say is this is one of the nice to have things. If I can quit dropping it. This is one of the nice to have things. This is a silicone cup, but as you can see, it's divided. They're nice for pouring multiple colors. But again, all silicone cups are going to be squishy. And as you can see, you can squish them. So sometimes when you're trying to pour, the cup wants to deform, and you kind of got to work around that. So you're going to need cups for mixing your resin. Now, obviously, if you're going to take this up as a hobby, you're going to need resin. Now, epoxy resin is generally the result of a chemical compound between the epoxy resin and a hardening agent. So you have to have both. One bottle is not going to do you any good. They range in price and size. So you can get as big a bottle up to gallons, or I believe you can get 5 gallon with like deep pour epoxies and things like that. So you can get different quantities based on what you're doing. And I suppose back when I started this, one of the things I should have mentioned, what do I need to get started doing resin is a very difficult question to answer because it depends a lot on what you want to make. If you're going to make a lot of coasters, you're gonna be fine with smaller bottles of crafting resin. If you want to do the live edge tables and the river tables and things like that, you want deep pour resin, and you're gonna want a whole lot of it. Because it does tend to, you're gonna go through a lot more. Now, deep pour resin has different properties over the crafting resin. It's better for pouring large quantities. And I don't know whether the bubbles come out better or anything like that. And I've seen a lot of different videos where they do absolutely crazy things with it. But I have not poured much deep pour resin yet. It is something we'll eventually get to. If you stick around on the channel long enough and you subscribe and you get to see the videos, I do plan on addressing all forms of resin at some point. Not sure if we'll get to doing the latest thing is tumbler resin because I don't have a lathe and I don't know that I want to buy one. Maybe once we get to the new house I will, but they're kind of crazy. All right, so cups. You want cups, and you want cups that have good markings because mixing resin, you want to mix based on what the manufacturer says. I have right here Let's Resin's Art and Craft resin, which is a 1-to-1 mix. So 1-to-1 means when I take one of those measuring cups, let's say I'm going to make 10 ounces of resin. I need to put 5 ounces of one and 5 ounces of the other. Sorry if this sounds very simple, but I'm trying to make it as easy as I can. Now, you will see on the market other resin ratios. You'll see 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 sometimes. I'm not gonna say that any work better or worse. I think it's just what the manufacturer recommends. It's what they have put together. Okay, so you are going to want those cups and you're going to want resin, obviously. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to have are molds. All right. Now, this is a silicone transparent mold. You can see of various different kinds. Sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're black. I think you can make them any color you want if you get into mold making, which is another thing for down the road. But we'll get into that more later. So you're gonna want resin, you're gonna want molds, and then you're going to want the cups to mix everything in. Now, getting into the those are the basic things that you need. You're gonna want also some you're gonna want the ability to add color to the things that you make. So I recommend something like this. Okay. Now you don't have to go with Let's Resin. I like the brand. I do. I like the product so far. Now that is mica powder. That's one kind of color, and I'll get into the different kinds of colors in a later video and what you're gonna find and see. But I will caution you, you can spend a lot of money on just on things like that because you can find variety packs that have 100 colors. I don't know if you need 100 colors. I haven't used that many yet, but it's nice to know I have them because you never know what you're going to want to create. Some of the other things now that you can get into are what we like to call inclusions. Uh, So I'm going to show you, this is just a little thing that I got of glitters. These are all different inclusions, and some are glittery. You can see they sparkle, some are not. But these are all things that you can add into your resin for various different effects. Obviously, glitter is going to give you sparkles, and the other things going to show you stuff, or you're just going to see things in the resin. Some of the other things that you can use as additions that I have, you can use seashells, small seashells, big seashells. I've seen some people use sand dollars, big ones, good sized sand dollars. So you can use dried flowers, which you can dry yourself if you're ambitious. That's a whole nother hobby, I guess. So you can use dried flowers. I really think you're only limited by, obviously, you don't want to add anything that can die or rot. Dried flowers or preserved flowers will last forever. And once they're in resin, they're fine. But if you put just a live flower in there, it will wilt and die. It's not going to be pretty. So you don't want to do that. All right. Now, that said, I should have pointed out colors. When you buy colors, you're going to get these little things. These things are great to use with your mica powder as far as scooping out powder and adding it to your resin. Now, next thing, and this is a must-have, not a nice-to-have. Tongue depressors, popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call them, stirring sticks. You can get silicone ones that you can clean after every use, or you can get these and throw them away. Now, these are biodegradable, obviously. They're made of wood. So, out in nature, when they get thrown away, they are going to degrade. The resin that's on them is not. Now, when I use these, I'm usually very, very anal about scraping resin off them. So I will scrape the resin on the edge of the cup, just kind of very, I'm going to show you kind of like this. I'm very, very fastidious about getting that off of there and having as little resin on this as I can, because it's a waste. And I try not to waste anything that I do make. And that leads me into a little bit briefly about mold. There are a lot of different companies that make molds. You can buy them on Etsy. You can buy them directly from companies that make resin products. I very much like buying molds from Let's Resin. Hate to keep beating a dead horse. I like the product, but their molds usually have a marking on them that tells you how much resin that mold uses. I cannot tell you how helpful that is, because then you're not going to waste as much resin. If you don't know, there are various different ways of figuring that out, and maybe we'll cover that in a later one, because we're just trying to get you started pouring now. So What you're going to do as far as mixing up your resin is you're going to put each portion into your cup, and then you're going to take your stick and you're going to stir until your arm falls off. 3 to 5 minutes, generally speaking, is what you want to mix your actual resin up to. Now, when I'm using these cups, especially the bigger ones, I only use clear resin in these to begin with, and that's because for $30, you can go out and buy one of these. What this is a resin mixer. Not a must-have. I do recommend having one. They're about $30 on Amazon. You can get them, and they generally come with 4 paddles on them. But I only mix clear resin with them because I don't want colors on my paddles and then to contaminate later projects with those colors. Not that I know that you can. I think once resin's hard, it's hard. So you're not going to mix it. But I tend to pour more than one thing a day. So I don't know. It's a preference for me. I use the sticks and my hand to stir after when I'm mixing in colors. Those are things that I think you have to have. You don't have to have a mixer, but I do recommend that. I think it's the greatest thing because it allows me to do other things while the resin is mixing, which usually for me, because I don't always know what I'm feeling like pouring on any given day or what kind of creativity is going to strike. So generally, I'll sit down, I mix up my clear resin while it's mixing on the mixer. I will sort through or dig through all of my different colors and everything to see what strikes my fancy. What do I feel like doing today? Or if I do happen to have some orders for a customer, I'll go through and try and find the colors that fit what they're looking for. But isopropyl alcohol, 91% or higher. Some people use 99%. I don't know that it makes a lot of difference, but I've been using 91 just because it's usually the easiest to find. The reason that we have it, number one, it's great for cleanup. Isopropyl alcohol is good for spraying, like wet resin to wipe it up. Sorry about the noise. Wet resin to wipe it up. Something like that. It's also great for once you've poured something into a mold, it's great to give it a quick spritz, and that will eliminate bubbles, small bubbles on the surface. Your larger bubbles, you're going to want to use a heat gun for it. And you can get heat guns fairly inexpensively on Amazon or Temu, or I have seen people say they use a hairdryer. I haven't tried it, don't know. I would think you could. The principle's the same. You got moving hot air. So that's the idea, is just to pop the bubbles with moving hot air. The last thing, and this is in the nice to have, what I've got here is a grinder and sanding belt sander that I bought on Temu for $29.99. You don't have to have it. You can sand things by hand if you want to. But I find it easier, particularly for me, because I've only got one hand. So trying to hold something with one and sand with another, it doesn't work real well. Now, so what I've got here, just to show you, and you can almost see there the edge right around on the edge up, nope, up here. You can see, and this is just the process of pouring a liquid into a mold. You get a little edge on some of your projects. It is possible to pour enough resin in a mold to get a dome. You don't have to. If you happen to have enough resin made for a project, I do recommend that you kind of dome it a bit. But so in a later video, I will show you how I clean up and finish projects, but that's what you want to have a belt sander for. Going to take off the sharp edges. I think it makes a nicer product, particularly when you're, I'm not going to get into what this is, but when you're holding something, you really don't want these sharp edges digging into your hand, into your fingers. So I recommend sanding them down just to make them a little bit nicer. I make these as well, which some people have never seen before. These are dice vault. And I just find that they're nicer if you sand off the sharp edges. When I first started making those, I was using rubber bands to keep them closed. And turns out that the rubber bands would just cut on the sharp edges. So I came up with another alternative than what I use is Velcro closure on mine. When I do get an order or when someone buys one, I ship them out and they're already sealed up with the Velcro. So I think that's all for this episode. I thank you all for coming by and watching my first video. I look forward to answering questions, so feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. And if you learned anything out of this, if you had a good time, if you think I'm pretty cool, hang out, feel free to like and subscribe. We'd love to have you, and that way you'll know when I post new videos. I do hope to post once a week on various different topics, and hopefully I'll answer questions that you have or show you techniques that you haven't used yet, or just show you various different things to do. So, all right, have an excellent day, and thank you all for stopping by.